Walter Nolen, the number one player who is officially in the portal. There was a minute there where he announced he was intending to enter into the portal. There was a report out there that, A&M was trying to have a conversation and trying to keep him in College Station. Eventually, he did officially end up into the portal. So he's in there. He's entered into the portal. So as we do on this show, we got to kind of call our shot a little bit here. Got to make some predictions, if you will, as to where a one Walter Nolen may end up landing. Before we do that, though, really quickly, make sure you subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel because we're talking ball all season long. We're talking portal whenever it's relevant. We're talking recruiting all season long because it is relevant all season long. Bottom line, if you love college football like we love college football and want to talk about it in a way that doesn't have agendas or the hot takes or the high fructose corn syrup, like if you want to kind of block all that out and just talk about ball, this is the spot to do it. So we appreciate y'all being dialed in and being a part of the program. So Walter Nolen, again, number one player in the transfer portal from Texas A&M. He's a defensive lineman, kind of a nose tackle type, 6'4", big body, right around the 300-pound range. And you hear the word fit a lot when it comes to the transfer portal. Hey, where does this guy fit? Where does he fit best schematically? Where does he fit best with a coaching staff? I'm gonna tell you this: anybody and everybody fits with Walter Nolen. You can always use an active nose tackle with great size, quickness, and will wreak havoc for you. There is nobody that you don't want like a Walter Nolen, all right? So I'm just telling you that. Fit here, yes, it matters to a degree, but I think even more so it's a fit for where does Walter Nolen want to go, because he'd fit anywhere. Couple of places that we got to talk about here, but I want to preface it with this. He will not come at a low price point. Pretty straightforward. If you want Walter Nolen's services, Andy Staples talked about this on his show as well, he's probably going to be in that low seven-figure range. So you get what you pay for. Quite frankly, Walter Nolen, with his ability and what he would bring to the table, he would be worth every penny you would imagine. But I just want to make sure we say that. If you want to land Walter Nolen, you have to be a player in the NIL space. So that also kind of helps frame this conversation as to where he may end up going. So let's kind of unpack a few potential landing spots for him. We say this a lot. We just said it a lot in our transfer portal segment a second ago. When it comes to where guys might go, the first place you got to look, home cooking. Where's the family at? Where are the roots at? Walter Nolen is from Tennessee. Tennessee would make a lot of sense. Get back home, develop and play in the SEC and NFL Junior, and let scouts see how you project against the best competition in the country. They were in his top 5 when he committed out of high school. Also, doesn't hurt, Tennessee well-resourced. So the NIL aspect of this, you would have to believe the Vols could compete in that department. I think Tennessee makes the most sense. Like if I had to call my shot today and put money down on a bet for where Walter Nolen ends up, I think Knoxville and the Vols makes the most sense. I would go with Tennessee. Now, assuming it's not Tennessee, assuming there's some other schools in play here, Walter Nolen plays on the defensive line. And obviously with him being in the collegiate ranks, he has aspirations to play in the NFL. So just as I do with any other major or, profession I want to be a part of in the future, I go where I am best positioned to catapult myself into that profession. If I want to be an actor, I want to be on Broadway, I go to Juilliard in New York City. Or I want to be an actor, I go somewhere in Hollywood and I go and get auditions there and I try and go to a school around there. If I want to be a chef, I go to Italy. I practice under the very best chefs in the world, and I learn how they do things. If I want to play defensive line in the NFL, I go to Georgia. Okay, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. We can just go down the line here and name like probably double-digit number of Georgia Bulldog defensive linemen that are in the NFL right now. And then eventually, kind of a nice little pipeline there to the Philadelphia Eagles. Just saying, Georgia makes a ton of sense. Georgia has a strong track record of getting guys to the league and developing them. And also say this too, you don't have to get, a high volume of snaps to be a top draft pick for the Dogs. Like they're going to play a lot of guys. So you got to be okay with rotating, and we'll see if that's something that would be appealing to him. But I'm just saying, Georgia, if you truly want to be an NFL draft pick and play defensive line and compete at a high level when you get to the NFL, like Georgia has proven they are just fine being able to get you in that space. Now, Miami also makes some sense. Now, Miami, there's a lot of talk around where they are in the NIL space, and some people are saying, well, they've fallen off. Talk to people in that world, and they said, listen, Miami, they're not quite as loud as they used to be in the NIL game, but they're still a player. So don't get it twisted. I think Miami could compete for Walter Nolen. And Mario Cristobal, we say it a lot on here, like he's a trenches guy. If you're a head coach in college football, you cannot change where you're from. I'm not talking about where you're from geographically. I'm talking about where you're from a football background. Mario Cristobal played on the offensive line. Have to imagine he has a heart for both sides of the trenches. Walter Nolen being a trenches guy would make a lot of sense to me. NIL checks the box. The needs check the box for Miami. And Walter Nolen being able to help them on that side of the football. Again, you have to imagine that would be something that would check out just fine for Coach Cristobal and company. Now, Andy Staples also said this on his show, so we're going to say the same thing here because I think it makes a ton of sense as well. Florida State, let's just keep it a buck. They have been transfer portal last couple of seasons. You look at the proof of concept of guys that transfer there and immediately just flourish. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you see a guy transfer to somewhere and you're like, okay, that's a great fit. It's a great spot. You never hear from him again. That hasn't been the case at Florida State. Keon Coleman, a great example. Fentrell Cypress, Jaheim Bell, Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, like they've crushed it on the portal, projection part of things, getting them into their operation and having them flourish. And then also, names I just said, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, those are guys that transferred into Florida State and play defensive line. So if you're Walter Nolen and you want to be a part of a defensive line that has proven it'll get you in a spot to be productive, Florida State makes all the sense in the world to me. Also believe that they are in a good spot from an NIL perspective. So I think they check that box as well. Florida State feels like less of a risk than some other places might. One more I want to talk about here. That's USC. And USC is probably, I don't know if stretch is the right word, but like geographically, it would be a pretty big pivot, right? Bear Alexander transferred there last year from Georgia. You also had Anthony Lucas, a former teammate of Walter Nolen's, transfer there last year. It's clear they need help on that side of the football. Moving to the Big Ten next year, we've seen what they can do in an NIL perspective with the way that Bear Alexander is throwing his apartment out there on social media. Like, I'm just saying, USC's a big brand with some NIL backing, you would have to believe, and you would have to imagine he could also help them quite a bit with what they need on that defensive side on that defensive line because they're trying to fortify that part of it. I think it's a big need for Lincoln Riley and company. Grabbing a guy like Walter Nolen would help meet that need without question. Prize Picks has been good to us all season long. They are bringing you the hard count today. Daily fantasy, super fun to play. We got bowl season coming up now. Going to be some fun squares to play in that department. And if you want to enhance your viewing experience, having a couple squares going, having a flex play going, and being able to win some money, it's a good way to live. All right, so redeem code JD, 100% deposit match when you sign up to $100. So you put $50 down, redeem code JD when you sign up. Prize Pick says, bada bing, bada boom, here's your own $50 to play with. So that's a nice way to live. I'm just telling you, Prize Picks will take care of y'all. In terms of how we've done on Prize Picks, y'all were ice cold. Like, we're supposed to recap how we've been doing to this point in the year, how we did last weekend. Y'all, we did bad. Like, I'm just going to tell you, I told y'all the week before the national, or the conference title games, rather, fade us. So if you took our advice and faded us, congratulations, you probably won some money. And if you didn't, it is what it is. We had a combo of Jalen Milroe and Quinn Ewers combined passing yards, hitting the more there. It did not, or hitting the less there, rather, it hit the more. Camden Lewis, the Oregon kicker, we had him going for 7.5 total points. That did not hit. Like, it was bad. It was bad for us. But again, I'm telling y'all, this is sort of an inverse of a, how do I want to say this? It's not all bad news. It's bad news for us as we lost, but it could be good news for you because I'm telling you, whatever we put down, just put the opposite, all right? But do so with redeeming code JD for a 100% deposit match up to $100. We appreciate Prize Picks for that. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.